Okay, Dr. Cruz, are you prepared? Okay.
Hello, everybody. And before I start, I really apologize. I am suffering from allergy. I mixed up the schedule. Okay. And I didn't see the last update of the schedule. And probably you are here to listen about the applications of AI. And everybody knows them and you've used them in schools in different areas. And AI is in everywhere, okay? But I want to a little bit bring you to a different aspect of AI. I'm an AI researcher. I have been involved in AI maybe for 20 years. And I want to a little bit speak about what is the real AI in you, and to just bring you to the philosophical structures of AI, and also and a kind of philosophical aspect of AI, and also the limits of the AI. So we know what AI is able to do. Is there anything AI is unable to do out there? Okay, and I'm optimistic about AI, by the way. And I'm a guy, I don't use AI, I develop AI. Okay? So it's a little bit different. I hope you guys will. So I already explained this. I'm going to just go a little bit what's AI and different forms of AI, benefit, risk, and philosophical boundaries of AI. I'll try to explain all of these in 15 minutes. Okay. And AI is actually this not Newton's old. And back in 1930s, we invented and Alan Turing, he published a paper about the possibility of a computing machine was a computer. It's ended up to become a computer. It was a paper, it wasn't real. Then he looked into it, he says, well, is there any way to make these to be smarter? That was old again, 1950s. Okay? And this is how the AI actually started. It is not new. And then the name of AI, they used it in 1956 in a well-known conference. It is actually named by John McCarthy. I met with him in 2003 and in Brooklyn. So I met with him. He was an old guy. And so that's how AI started. But it was all on paper, because we didn't have computational power that we have these days. Only a research, okay? And actually, the real AI that was over there, it wasn't the one that you guys know. It was basically about the limits of. So let's say there is easy problems by a computer. It's a little bit technical diagram, and there is easy problem for a computer. But then in the 1970s, they invented a few algorithms. Well, those are hard for those machines. They are exponential, actually. Exponential algorithm or factorial algorithm. Then what will you do about those problems? They say this is how the AI then approach it. So we call them MP. I think MP problems. Okay. So those are MP or MP complete problems. There is solution available, but it's beyond a regular algorithm. Okay, it is like you want to get an airplane ticket from here to London, but the cheapest one. Without AI, you can't get these airplanes. You have to look all around different stuff to get the cheapest ticket, which you have spent maybe 400 years on it doing it. But AI will do this by using heuristics. That's before machine learning, okay? So AI was doing this, yes. So this is the limits of AI. When you look into this diagram, exponential and factorial problems are beyond the computer's algorithm that to provide an acceptable solution. So this is where the AI helps us. How AI helps us in that domain? Helps us by using heuristics. Let's say the example of getting an airplane ticket from here to London. A lot of those tickets doesn't make sense. Let's say who would fly from here to Chicago, then rent a car to the Texas, then fly to Africa, then go to London. Nobody's gonna do that, right? So when you look into all of these different ways to go from Europe to the London, like almost 99% of those, they don't make sense. So AI then use heuristics to provide a solution to those problems. And so this is a kind of problem domain. When you see these P, those are easy problems for computers. We don't need AI. NP, anything beyond these, we can use AI to get solutions to those problems. So, but it is using heuristics. There is algorithms available, but AI will use heuristics to provide solution to these problems. Okay? And so the life was wonderful. People were using heuristics to do this stuff, but still it has an error rate involved. Okay, let's say Google direction that you're using from here to go to your home. It is not an optimal direction actually. It's an acceptable direction. So the heuristic will give you an acceptable output. Okay, and so then we have this stuff, but we see certain problem. They don't have algorithms. Right? This is where the AI that you know started, and machine learning. We don't have any algorithms for these problems, but what we have is those problems are providing a lot of data, such as finance. So where we should invest? There is no algorithm to go say invest in real estate, invest. No, there is no algorithm to do that. Let's say emails is a good example. And how are you gonna know what email is a spam email? Let's say you receive email, right, in the inbox. So this is spam, this is not, this is spam. There is no algorithm to do that. Okay, so we don't have an algorithmic solution to this. So the machine learning is old. It is not new, but we didn't have storage to store the data back then. Okay, we didn't have CPU speed. We didn't have the GPUs back then. It was again only a theoretical array. And when you look at the history of machine learning, it's again starting back in 1950s. Okay, and so then we starting on the year 2000, I think, 4, there is new development on the storage units. We were able to store huge amount of data. Okay, and then you got a field called big data. When you got big data, then the machine learning become practical. So machine learning, it is actually doesn't use heuristics. It is using statistics. Okay, statistics, big data algorithm, it is making machine learning. Okay, so we actually applying statistics to the big data, try to extract knowledge from that data. I'm ahead of my slides, I'm sorry. Okay, so I explain all of this stuff. I mean, if you want to see here, if the input, let's say the number of, if input of a problem increase, see how those problems increase. So, and when you see here, look at here. How many steps is involved? You have to spend maybe 100 years to get a solution without AI, okay? So how to solve MP problem using heuristics. So, and again, we have big amount of data, right? So the idea is to extract knowledge from the data. So statistics won't do prediction for you. right? It won't actually learn from the data. That is the invention of machine learning. So it will look into the big amount of data. What is the data? Let's say if I give a number, 82. What 82 is? It's a number, right? But if I say 82 Fahrenheit, now it becomes data, right? So I add a fact to it, then I get information from it. So if I say if temperature is greater than 82, you can go out. You see, now I extract knowledge from that data. So all the machine learning does, it is to extract knowledge from the data, then to make a prediction based on this. Okay, to make a long story short. This is we call the probabilistic solvability. So actually the machine learning does is what machine learning does is it is providing you a probabilistic solution with an error rate. There's always error involved. So probably you guys see in your email, you receive emails, one of your like good email becoming junk mail. That's the error of the algorithm. Okay. And so in that, so we know what AI is able to do, what AI is unable to do. So we know all of these stuff. Then I want to just a little bit go to compare human to machine, where like computer outperform human. Okay. So what advantage do human have over computer? Okay. So now those advantages are becoming smaller. Before it was a lot. I remember before we talked about, we said, well, human able to do art. So AI able to do art too now. Okay. And what advantage computer has over human? That's very important. So computer has computational advantage over human. If I ask you to go multiply two big numbers, you will do it. I will do it. But probably going to spend maybe a couple of hours to do it. But computer will do just right away. That is the advantage of computer or human. That is making AI to become realistic. That is where the AI is outperform human, right? And so there's a lot of advantages of human. Of AI. Like I told you, I'm optimistic about AI, right? I'm not the guy who say, "Oh, we should stop AI." No, I think it's good. We should use it. Now we got a chance to get it signed at the 28 maybe. So we can go to a lot of other stuff. And it's improving human health. It improves human error. Let's say if you work in an office, humans make a lot of errors. But AI will reduce those errors. Let's say taxes. And this availability is always available. You can use it whenever you want it. Okay, it's always there. Let's say a doctor. If you want to go to a human doctor, you have to make an appointment. Wait, doctor might be angry that day. He had a bad day. But AI always available. It never get angry. Right? So it's always there. You can use it. But on these advantages, there are also risks involved. Example, human privacy. We don't have any privacy anymore. Now, while I speak, probably AI is listening to me. Okay, and it is hijacking human kind of. So we don't. What human has it? We make decisions in our life, right? That's what we do. We wake up, you make decision. You work, you make a decision. You vote, you make a decision. You go online to buy a product, you make a decision, right? So AI probably will use that, and we want to make a decision. We'll ask AI to make a decision for. If I ask my students. I give a talk about ethics before. There are young students and older people there.
You can wrap it up. Yes.
Yeah. So I ask them. I say, do you trust AI or do you trust yourself? And people around my age and older, they say, I trust myself. Younger ones, they say, no, I trust AI. It's interesting, right? So human civilization organization has been impacted. So the limits of, let's look at these one. Is there any limits to this stuff? Yes, there is limits to stuff AI is able to do it. So the example, let's say, software validation. Wow, let's say you write a program, and AI won't be able to say this and true or wrong program. It won't be able to do this. And human in the life, we're living in an incomplete world. So we don't need a complete world. That means the stuff that we do, everything is not well documented. So AI is also not documented too in that range. Okay, so it won't be able to do this stuff. So I have to go a little bit fast. And if you want to ask, I will be happy to answer. About ethics, about the.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah. Dr. Khan?
All right, thank you. I hope no one has offended delicate sensibilities because we're going to talk about bullshit a lot. How do I fix? What is the full screen on this? Is it this? Oh, okay. All right, thank you all for coming. So I'm coming to you from Seton Hall's philosophy department, and I'm going to give you a brief overview. I'm not going to get into too much detail, but about a project that I'm working on that's taking tools from philosophy of language and trying to use them to understand what kind of language users LLM chatbots are. How do these new language producers fit into our existing linguistic practices that have been, of course, developed around human speech and human conversation? So, bullshit is a term of art in philosophy. So Harry Frankfurt in, I think 1986, and then again he expanded on a book in like 2005, introduced bullshitting as a speech act. And this corresponds with, our normal everyday usage of bullshitting, which is making claims without any regard for whether they're true or false. The kind of paradigmatic bullshitter is your used car salesman who, if something's good about the car, he'll say that. If it's not good, he'll lie. Just gonna say absolutely whatever he thinks would appeal, whether it's true or false, doesn't care. The bullshitter often doesn't even know whether what they're saying is true or false. So an unscrupulous politician who just says whatever he thinks will land with the audience, whether or not he, plans to carry that out, or if he thinks it's true, he may not even have any idea whether it's true. So bullshitting is often contrasted with lying. So if I'm lying to you, I know what the truth is, and I'm telling you something else, right? I'm telling you something that I know to be false, or, I could be wrong about what's true, but I believe it to be false. So even when I'm lying to you, I'm showing some concern for the truth, right? I care whether what I say is true or false, and that I know that it's false. The bullshitter does not care, right? So if I'm bullshitting you, I don't care whether it's true or false. I may not even know whether it's true or false. So that's the characteristic of the bullshitter. So the bullshitter may not even know and does not care about whether what they say and present as true to other people is true or false. So the bullshitter is not necessarily trying to deceive you about what they actually say, right? They may well say something true, right? The used car salesman might say something true about the car. What they are deceiving you about is what they're up to, right? They're presenting themselves as informing you, telling you something important or interesting. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm moving away from the online people, sorry. They're presenting themselves as telling you something interesting or informative about whatever it is you're talking about. But what they're actually doing is something else. They're trying to present themselves in a certain way. They're trying to present the car as very desirable. They're trying to present themselves, maybe a politician, as very knowledgeable or very concerned with the well-being of the populace when they in fact are not. So they're trying to deceive you, not necessarily about the base level facts that they're saying or presenting as facts, but they're trying to see about what they're doing, about what their agenda is. Okay, so this has been a observation that's been made many times outside of philosophy, and recently there's been a paper arguing that the best way to understand what LLM chatbots say is as bullshit in this Frankfurt sense. So they argue that this is Michael Townsend Hicks, James Humphreys, and Joe Slater, for the sakes et al, because a lot of names. So they argue that ChatGPT bullshits its users. So see a little bit of background about how LLMs work and why this would make sense. So as has been luckily covered already today, LLMs are next token prediction machines, and they often produce true outputs. So they're trained on.
Can you just tell us what LLM?
Oh, sorry, large language models. Yes, the large language models. So this is the technology that's behind things like ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, all of that type of thing. So all of your generative AI is mostly based on LLMs. So they're trained on huge amounts of human-produced data. And of course, that contains a lot of things which are true. Some of the things on the internet are, true, not all of them. It also contains some falsehoods. And so often the LLMs will produce things that are true because, they've been represented in its training data often enough that these words are associated. But when it does produce truths, it's not doing that because it knows that they're true, right? It doesn't have any way to check whether its outputs are true. It doesn't have any way to check whether its training data is true. Of course, LLMs are trained on things from the internet, including lots of falsehoods or things that simply are out of date, were true maybe when they were posted and aren't true anymore. So this is why this feature, the idea that next token prediction is not the same or doesn't track the truth. When it's true in some sense accidentally, because what the most likely next token is just happens to be the same as what's true, but it's not because it's, tracking what's true in reality. So the thought that Townsend Hicks, Humphreys, and Slaters have is that LLMs are bullshitters because when they say things, they're saying it without concern for the truth, right? This is not coming out of a process that maybe has ways to verify it. It's not a representation of the LLM's sincere belief or knowledge about what's going on in the world. So why should you care about this problem? So the first big picture reason that this project matters, not just to philosophers of language, is that there's been some question about what kinds of terminology we want to use to describe LLMs saying falsehoods. So for instance, hallucination is the most common term you'll hear, and a lot of experts think that this is actually inappropriate. First, it applies experience, subjective experience. A hallucination is a misleading experience. And of course, LLMs don't have subjective experience like we do, especially this kind of sensory experience that hallucinations usually are. The other problem with it, besides this kind of anthropomorphizing and assuming experience, is that it implies that the process that's a deviation from an otherwise reliable process. So if I'm normally seeing you regularly, I have a reliable visual process that's giving me information about who's in the room, and then I hallucinate. That's a deviation from a process that typically produces true representations of the world. But of course, that's not what's going on with the LLMs. When it hallucinates or when it produces falsehoods, it's the exact same process as when it produces truths. We've also seen some people suggest that lying is the right thing, the right way to characterize LLM falsehood. So lying has the same kind of issue. It anthropomorphizes. It implies that the LLM knows what the truth is and is deciding, maybe for some, malicious reason, to tell you something false. But of course, the LLM doesn't have a way to keep track of what's true or what's false. It doesn't have beliefs or knowledge. It'll tell you one thing in one conversation and the exact opposite in a different conversation. So it really isn't telling you things that it takes to be false. And of course, it's not telling you things that it takes to be true. It doesn't take anything to be true or false. So that's also inappropriate. Now, this overall question, I think, matters a lot, right? What terminology, especially experts and educators, use to describe these kinds of LLM errors matters, because we're informing people about what it is that they're dealing with. And if people think that they're dealing with maybe a liar or something with sensory experience, or otherwise we're anthropomorphizing it so that they start to treat it like a human conversational partner, we're actually putting them in a really bad position. They're putting them in a position where they start to say, trust it, just like a person, or excuse its falsehoods as if, oh, well, it's just hallucinating, it's not its fault. So characterizing this accurately and in our public discourse is actually really important to helping the public have an accurate view of what it is they're interacting with. The second thing is understanding how LLMs fit into our linguistic practices. So in the philosophy of language and linguistics, we have a huge amount of tools to analyze language, how it affects interpersonal relationships, how it affects maybe the political sphere and political discourse. But of course, all of these were developed around human beings, and especially around human beings' communicative intentions. So if I, threaten you, or if I congratulate you, the right way to understand what I've said is not just on, the actual content, but also by looking at what am I trying to do? I'm trying to make you feel good, congratulate you on your accomplishments, or I'm trying to maybe change what decision you make by threatening to do something if you make the decision I don't want. But of course, LLMs don't have intentions like this. So these tools that require analyzing what kind of thing human beings are trying to communicate are not necessarily a great fit for LLMs that don't necessarily want to communicate anything. Okay, so that's enough for kind of motivation. Here's the argument. So as a philosopher, love an argument. So they give us this definition of bullshit. Any utterance, that's just, production of words, meaningful words, where a speaker has indifference to its truth. So this matches pretty well with our everyday notion of bullshit, the way we were talking about what Frankfurt was saying before. So here's how the argument's supposed to work. And philosophers call this an argument by cases, in that we're looking at two different cases. Either ChatGPT and other LLM chatbots have intentions, or they don't. So an intention, just in philosopher speak, it's kind of like when you want to do something or plan to do something, you intend to do something. It's the mental state that you have that represents the action that you are either in the process of taking or going to take in the future. So most people think at this point that it's extremely unlikely that any of these LLM chatbots have intentions. So we're considering both of these two cases, but we really think we're probably in case number 3. This is most likely where we are right now. So the argument goes like this: either it has intentions or it doesn't. If it does have intentions, they say it's a bullshitter, and they provide more explanation for that. If it doesn't have intentions, and again, this is where we probably are, then it's a bullshitter. Therefore, ChatGPT is a bullshitter. So why would premise 3 be true? I'm going to focus on this because this is our most likely scenario. Well, it produces utterances, it's producing meaningful words arranged in a meaningful way. And they argue that failure to have intentions, the fact that it does not have any communicative intention or intention to inform you or tell you the truth, that's enough to count as indifference to the truth, right? ChatGPT cannot care about whether what it says is true, and that, they say, means it is indifferent to the truth. So that gets us, if it fails to have intentions to, say, tell the truth, then it's indifferent to the truth and therefore a bullshitter. So that's how we get to our conclusion. So my project here is to provide an objection to this argument. But I will say, I think there's something right about the suggestion, and I'll sketch my overall project to make sense of the idea that ChatGPT outputs bullshit without as I'm going to argue, ascribing intentions to ChatGPT in an inappropriate way. So the problem with this argument is that it's based on a definition of bullshit that is far too broad. So they define it as any utterance where a speaker has indifference to its truth. But then we have a lot of cases that perfectly well meet this definition that are obviously not in our everyday speech bullshit. So imagine George says aloud while he's, deep asleep. He says the Gruyere is in the bathtub. Now imagine, would you say, wow, George just said, George is bullshitting me. Would you wake him up and say, George, stop bullshitting me? Or would you say if someone who often talks in their sleep, gosh, he's always bullshitting? That seems a little weird, right? The bullshitter wants to get something from you. They want to present themselves in a certain way. George isn't aware that he's saying anything at all. And he's certainly, not even capable of caring about whether it's true. He doesn't even know that he's saying something. Similarly, you have these cases where, the classic case of the monkey typing out the works of Shakespeare. So monkey just typing away on a typewriter and types out something is rotten in the state of Denmark. Now, the monkey doesn't intend to communicate anything at all with you, doesn't know that it's produced meaningful text. And so it would be weird to say that the monkey was bullshitting you, right? The monkey's not presenting what it says is true. It doesn't even know it's, writing text at all. So the lesson here is that when you produce text or utterances unintentionally, right? You don't even know you're saying anything. You don't even know that you produced some text. That's not bullshitting. The background here is that the real problem with bullshit is that bullshit masquerades as truth. The bullshitter is dangerous because they present themselves as a truth teller. In the sleep talking case and in the monkey case, neither of these people are presenting what they say as true at all, right? They're not even aware that they're saying anything. So we need to adjust the definition of bullshit because we don't want to say that, the sleep talker is bullshitting you. That doesn't really fit with how we actually use the word. So we can expand our narrow our definition here. Say any intentionally produced utterance where a speaker is indifferent to its truth. So it can't be, us sleep talking. It can't be like keyboard mashing. If you ever use the phone auto predict and you actually put it in your pocket and you end up saying some weird sentence, that's not, you're not bullshitting your friend if you actually sent them a weird text. So it needs to be intentionally produced utterance or text. So how does this fit with our argument for ChatGPT being bullshit? Am I okay on time?
Yeah, a few more minutes.
Okay, yeah. So if this is right, and in order to be an act of bullshitting, it has to be intentionally produced, then this argument doesn't work. And it doesn't work because premise 3 is going to be false, right? If ChatGPT does not have intentions, then it's a bullshitter. Well, that won't follow anymore, right? If it has to be intentionally produced, then if ChatGPT doesn't have intentions, then it's not a bullshitter, right? It couldn't be a bullshitter. And then the conclusion doesn't follow. So I said before that I actually think there's something to this approach. Obviously, I don't think the argument actually works, but I'll give you just a brief sketch of where I'm going with it. So I don't think that ChatGPT has intentions, certainly doesn't have communicative intentions like we do, right? It's not trying to inform you. It's not trying to help you. It's not trying to threaten you. It's not trying to communicate anything to you at all. But it is designed to encourage the user to interpret it that way. So I'm arguing that there are a number of features of the design of LLM chatbots that encourage users to interpret them as having communicative intentions. So that is first, the conversational format that looks like a messaging app where people message, their actual friends. It also follows conversational norms, right? So it's going to be polite. It's going to give you relevant answers. It will give you, it'll give you what it takes to be informative answers. Doesn't follow the truthfulness norm. The other thing is that it mimics social indicators of trust, right? So one thing that a lot of psychologists think is an indicator of trustworthiness is expressing goodwill. I say, I really want to help you meet your goal. You'll say, okay, well, help me with, what is the answer to this question? And then I give you the answer and you think, okay, well, she wants to help me meet my goals. So it must be true what she says. ChatGPT and other LLM chatbots are often expressing goodwill to the users and expressing their own eagerness to help you with your project. And so this is something that induces trust by design in the users. The other piece of my approach is to say that bullshit doesn't have to be produced by bullshitting, right? You can perfectly well imagine you have a conspiracy theorist uncle. He's always telling you about the dangers of 5G. And you say, you know what? I don't even want to go visit Uncle Lee anymore. He's always saying bullshit. He's not bullshitting, right? He believes all that stuff 100%. He's totally sincere. He thinks he's telling you the truth. But you can still describe the output of what he's saying as bullshit without saying that Uncle Lee is trying to bullshit you, right? He's trying to tell you the truth. He's just wrong. So that's the direction I'm going. And I want to thank you all for listening.
I think we have time for one question, if anybody has a
Oh,
question.
sorry, I've let it gone over. Yeah.
So just leaving it in bullshit for now.
Yeah.
Okay, we all know about search engine optimization and how websites are trying to game that. There is now a huge, problem with AI EO, where companies, politicians, disinformation are infecting places where they know ChatGPT goes to get its information so that it spits out its preferred outcome. So this bullshit is even more dangerous than being like amoral. It leads to even more dangerous stuff. So I just wanted to say that and maybe get your thought on it.
Thank you. And yes, that is a very scary.
On my personal website, I put fake stats, fake information about my hair, and it comes up on Gemini.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yep, that I have close cropped and shaved hair in most of my public appearances, and that I won a best hair contest in 2014.
And ChatGPT says that.
Gemini did.
One of the things was, I guess about 2 decades ago, a friend of mine showed me this thing online. It's called the bullshit generator. And it has large vocabulary. And you click a button and it says generate bullshit. And it'll say like synergizing innovative e-platforms.
Yeah.
And then it says, I dare you to try this in a meeting and then let us know the results. So there's actually an intention.
May I make a comment?
Absolutely.
I think the blame is not on the LLMs, it's on the human.
Yeah.
Because they learning what data we give to them. And, you can design an ultra precise AI.
Yeah.
Then you can blame AI. I didn't do anything. So let's say when you hire people, you can design an AI on training on data, it will advantage certain gender or the other ones.
Yeah.
So then you say, oh, I didn't do it.
Yeah. Oh, this
AI did it.
You're talking to an HR professor.
And there's
right now. I mean, it's so-
a philosophical thing, let's say driverless like car, right? We have on the street. So let's say you have a very expensive like car, expensive like millions of dollars, okay? There's a person on the road, there's 2 options. You can hit him, nothing happened to the car, or we have go over and here we're gonna lose $1 million.
Yeah.
So what options AI will do in that situation?
So this is, I'm happy to talk about driverless cars. It's very far afield.
No, it is like, again, related to this, the way that they train it, just go, a company, let's say, Elon, like Musk, don't want to lose $1 million,
Yeah.
just get it to the person.
So, okay, so the first thing, in response to your questions I want to mention, sorry, taking a couple of them, is this actually is one of the benefits of my approach, is that if a person bullshits you, you blame them. And you find out later that they, had no idea what they were talking about. You blame them for misinforming you. And I think that's inappropriate in the case of LLM chatbots. You should be blaming the designer. It's not trying to bullshit you. It doesn't know whether what it's saying is true or false. So describing it as a bullshitter is inappropriate. You blame the bullshitter. So instead, you should be blaming the people who design.
But there's I blame Anthropic, OpenAI for all the problems.
All right, thank you.
very much. Dr. Beeson?
All right. Hi, everyone. First off, thank you for all the very responsible presentations so far in this room. I hope that is true in all the different rooms going on in this. I'm a real AI skeptic in so many ways. You can see I'm wearing Flippy right here with a famous quote. It can't be that stupid. You must be prompting it wrong. Okay, so anyway, I've handed out kind of my thesis here, which is, hey, businesses, are you interested in a product that your customers hate? They'll only buy it at a discount. A Claude $200 a month subscription costs Anthropic about $3,000 to service, and it's only costs $200 right now because venture capital is subsidizing it all. People will not use it at $3,000 a month. Okay, it destroys your company culture. You can look at Salesforce as a great example of that. It makes your data less secure. Your insurer doesn't want to cover this. Insurers do not, they're putting carve-outs in their corporate contracts that they will not cover the output of AI of companies for damages and things like that. It plants time bombs in the code that you use to run your business. If AI is writing your code 2 years later when you need to update it, you won't know how, and things will go awry. It makes you dependent on an over-leveraged provider. It creates unpatentable outputs. The legal system is showing you cannot patent something that's built with AI. It ignores the nuances of your business, dumbs down your employees, and loses you money. In higher education, it makes a university dependent on a morally dubious for-profit company. It makes it easy for our students to cheat. It teaches our students how to cheat. It harms the relationship between faculty and students, discourages original and critical thinking, making our students less marketable. It ensures that our students learn less than they otherwise would, and there's lots of emerging studies that are showing this. It makes data insecure, again, and there's like data security issues at universities. They're very important. Again, for research purposes, it creates unpatentable outputs and potentially destroys the research process. We heard about a better model of that before. Also, it does all this while contributing to the largest scale intellectual property theft of all time. I'm getting $300, by the way, from the settlement. Harvard Business Press was not very happy with its scraping for my books. Accelerating an energy crisis, contributing massively to the environmental and global warming crises, displacing communities, abetting a mental health crisis based on people believing the thing to be a human or human-like. And leading the world into a huge market crash, like really get your 401ks in order, people. Okay, I have a product for you. It's called AI. It does all these things. Okay, so, but really, I'm not quite as cynical as all that. AI is a normal technology that needs to be treated like a technology and not like the all-powerful new thing that's going to change everything. I read this in Bloomberg a month ago. We're 3 years into this hype cycle. And the risk from AI is the wrong starting point. The biggest mistake CEOs can make is beginning with the technology rather than the business objective. We need to start with the business objective and then determine how the technology can help with that. Really? Okay. AI is a normal tool. It can be useful, malleable technology for lots of different things, right? If we understand what it does, what its limits are, what it could be done in, I think, targeted areas driven by experts. But not enough people consider all these problems and the potential real downsides. So I would like to talk about specifically those at work, in workplaces, and in higher education. I'm a business school professor. I study workplaces. I see what's happening there. And of course, we're all in higher education. I'm going to put all these other things aside for today. These would make a good whole symposium, any one of these boxes, the environmental externalities, theft, the things I've talked about before. But let's talk about workplaces. You probably heard the term work slop. It was the word of the year from Merriam-Webster's dictionary last year. And this is like crappy work that we send each other, and everybody knows it's like crappy work that's been like delivered by AI. So now we think worse of our coworkers, and we don't trust the work that we're getting, and we can't really trust how well we can even do our work. Other workplace problems, and some of these I already talked about, so I don't want to go too far, but customers hate the results of AI work. If you've been with a chatbot and customer service, you hate it. Okay, long-term code health is another big problem, because coders don't just write code. They write code for a specific company and specific context, so that the next coder can go and plug something in or change it, and you can maintain it over time. And if we just offload that, like we shouldn't, and that we, our other speakers talked about offloading some of these things, we offload the good things that's built for, and don't offload the things that we need human brains for. Again, it kills company culture, lack of development, and a lot of this is driven by FOMO, by leadership. I have to say we're doing AI because otherwise investors won't like me, or the board won't like me. And I don't really know why we're using AI, but we're going to force everybody to, and we're going to count the number of AI applications we use in their performance evaluations instead of looking at whether they're doing good work or not, or using a technology the way it's designed. It's a real problem. It also represents a fundamental misunderstanding of what work is. Sorry, I'm getting heated here. Okay. For things that are input to output, very algorithmic, right? It can do a pretty good job. About 80% accurate. Copilot says it's about 57% accurate if you use it within Excel. That's good. No. Anyway, but that's where we are, right? And that's for straightforward things. But work's more than that. And I have 3 pictures here because a podcaster and writer that I follow named Ed Zitron, I don't know if you've heard of him. He's even more hyped up about this than I am. He gives these great examples. He's like, what does a software engineer do? Well, they don't just write code. Again, they do the things I talked about before. They write code in a context that can be correctable, that they understand how it's been written, that they work with their team so everybody else knows how it's been written so they can update it and change it and do other things like that, right? They just don't write code. A writer doesn't just produce words. A writer grapples with ideas and their human understanding and feels things in their guts and reads here and reads there and talks to somebody and puts it all together to write something that's really good. And this goes back to the research question, right? Listen, a crappy researcher can go to an LLM and say, well, I need to publish something next year to get tenure. What should I publish in this field? And it'll say, well, here's an established thing, and you could do one little tweak on it, and you can get that published in a meh journal, and you'll get your tenure. And that's exactly what you were talking about, where it's restricting these bigger picture ideas and new things that shake up perhaps our knowledge. And then finally, a barber also does work. They don't just cut hair. They cut your hair. They cut your hair at a certain time of the year. They cut your hair that might be a little more oily than usual, or a little more thick than usual, or maybe you're going on vacation for a long time, so you need it really a little bit shorter, right? And they have a conversation with you, and they help your kid when they're nervous. Work is not just input-output. Almost any piece of work is more than input-output. And AI can help with the input-output part, but it can't do the full thing of work. So why are workplaces hell-bent on forcing all their work through AI? So it's a misunderstanding of work. And I'm going to show Mina Kimes, who you might know if you follow sports. She's a football analyst for ESPN and one of my favorite follows. She was interviewed on a podcast about work and her work. And she makes the point, and I think this is correct, the struggle is the work, and it's how you learn.
I would say this, because
I'm going to jump to where she starts, really. Good.
you use Google, which is, of course, useless now, to figure it out. So as a super Google quick, it is absolutely useful. And I do think a lot of people experience that same utility in just trying to research things in their ordinary lives. But I think an important distinction, especially when you're thinking about generative AI, is does this help me do my job versus does this help me do my job better or well? And that's where I think is another layer to all of this, because my experience is that there's not only a limit in terms of actually getting the answers, as we talked about, because of the access I have to databases, but if I was to lean on it excessively, I would be bad at my job. And this is why when I look at data, when I have a question and I'm like, let me see, if I tweak this and this and this, or I want to see which running back in this scenario, whatever, the process of looking it up is as important for me to do my job well as the output. When I see the numbers and I start toggling the filters and I start ruling guys out and I go down rabbit paths and I add extra, that is how I actually arrive at my insights, is not by entering a question and getting an answer. Similarly, when I was a writer, I could have used generative AI to spit out an outline and then write off that. But the process of outlining, I feel, is what made my stories better and allowed me to work through my thoughts. And I think that is something that people are figuring out when they use these technologies is, if you want to just do a crappy job, it could do it. But most of us should want more than that, I think. And that's been my experience in playing around with these tools. I would say this.
So I think she says it perfectly. So I'm not going to leave it at Yamina. So in education, I give this analogy to my students. I don't think they like it, that I don't allow them to use AI, and I have some things, tips and tricks that help me see that their written work is done at least by human fingers and a human brain. I say, you can't go to the gym with a robot, have the robot do your lifting for you, and expect your arms to get strong. And that's what we're doing in higher education when we allow our students to do a lot of their assignments with AI. They're bringing robot arms, and we're not making them strong. Here's just a few things. When you allow a machine to summarize your reading, to generate the ideas for your essay, and then write that essay, you're not learning how to read, write, or think. It's very difficult to imagine a robust market for university graduates whose thinking, interpreting, and communicating or research is been offloaded to a machine. What value could graduates possibly add to any enterprise? There's lots of emerging research that AI-assisted assignments lead to less learning and understanding of the material. They've been doing these experiments where they have to do this assignment kind of without aid. Some are encouraged to use AI and some can use AI for certain purposes. And all the time, the group that does not use AI learns more and retains more. There was a survey of some high schools in California, and 98% of students said that receiving AI-generated work from their teachers diminished their opinion of the teacher. When we use AI to grade or to write assignments or to write our exams, we are breaking the compact. We have to hold the line. Other organizations can do what they want. We in the academy have to hold the line. only 14% of high schoolers believe that their classmates do not cheat using AI. Okay, they know it. They cheat all the time with this. Okay, we make it easy and we abet them sometimes. And then finally, this goes back to some of what was talked about before. Young people grow dependent on AI and lose faith in their abilities without it. These kids started believing less in themselves. This is what happens when we encourage students to offload the learning process. So all I would like to say, and I'll calm down now, is that thoughtful academics and business leaders need to take a pause. We don't want to run off the cliff with everybody else. I think we're at the top of the hype cycle. But I could be wrong on that, but okay. But the goal should not be technology use. Again, these companies that are mandating you have to use blah, 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 blah for your performance evaluation, that's wrong. It's a technology, it's a tool. It can help you do parts of your job better. It is not the end goal. Adoption is not the end goal. It is part of the process. Somebody online is unmuted. It might not be the game changer everybody thinks. I think very reasonable presentation so far talked about the limits of what it can do and what it can't, what the risks are of over-indexing into it. So let's pause before rushing ahead with all this. It's great we have a symposium to talk about these things, but I don't think universities should be rushing headlong like I know a lot of universities are. That I just saw an advertisement for American University that's saying, we have embedded AI into every one of our courses. Now, maybe that's appropriate in certain places because it's a tool that can be used in certain places that is perfectly appropriate. But the use of AI in and of itself is not the goal, right? But that's the FOMO thing. American is worried about losing to other universities who are also making these statements, so everybody's ramping up on this. I think we've been pretty responsible, and Chris, who's in the back here, has been somewhat responsible for making sure that we're doing things responsibly. So I want to give kudos. I think FTU we're not rushing too far ahead. We're assessing as we go, and I think that's the appropriate way to go. All right. So also, and I just want to end, we need proper skepticism and critical evaluation because we're getting so much information from self-interested parties. There's captured media that seems to every utterance of Nadella or of Altman just becomes an article. So you might have heard this from last week. Oh, this is so powerful, we can't release it to the public. Okay, so which is this? For which of these things is this statement true? The Claude Mythos thing this month or 2019? Why not both? It was both. They've been saying these outrageous claims to build hype for a really long time. They overpromise and underdeliver all the time. Next time you see an article that says, oh, they raised up to $30 billion for something. Well, there's lots of conditions on that. It was only $5 billion, and then the other $10 billion are to buy the products of the funder and all this other stuff. $30 billion is a nice headline, and credulous media goes along with it. They have $100 million in annualized annual revenue. Okay, do you know what that means? They take their best month out of the year and multiply it by 12. That's what AAR is, okay? But they don't even do that. Anthropic, their month is 4 weeks, which gives them a 13th month. So they are literally shoving in an extra month of revenue into everything that they claim. And business media and economic media and financial media are asleep at the wheel because this is what's happening. Oh, wow. Oh, yeah, this was it wrote 350,000 lines of code today. Isn't that amazing? Well, a human could have written 4,000 lines of code and accomplished the same thing. And it's bloat and it's all this other stuff. And this is actually bad because a human has to review all this stuff and a human has to update all this stuff and things like that, right? So this is like putting this huge debt on companies. They're building a 1.2 gigawatt data center that will come online by the end of 2026. Well, that was actually a true statement headline. There were supposed to be 8 buildings within this data center. 1 is completed. The second is due to come online in October, and they haven't built buildings 3 through 8 yet. They have built out less than 0.2 gigawatts. Okay. And predictions about when will we achieve AGI? The first announcement of this was 2014. Oh, and then it became 2018. Then it became 2020, and then 2024, and then it was 2026. And now they're saying 2027, 2030. Never. Never. Yeah. It's like those cults that have the ends of the world, right? And then like, oh, it didn't happen. Damn it. Anyway, so we just need proper skepticism about the claims that are out there. Don't trust them. Look further into the numbers and into the media. And one last thought. According to Harvard's framework for the responsible use of AI, of ethical use of AI, they should follow 5 principles. So our organization, FTU, should do this, Seton Hall should do this, right? Fairness, transparency, accountability, privacy, security. These are need to be upheld. Well, has Anthropic lived up to this? Has OpenAI lived up to this? Has Grok lived up to this? Has Microsoft lived up to this? Has Mark Zuckerberg lived up to this? I don't think we owe them any benefit of the doubt of their claims about what AI is and what it could do. We need to learn these things for ourselves in a balanced, responsible way. Okay, and one last, my final thought, and before I'm getting pulled off here, but is I'm a human resource management professor, and there are massive class action suits going on right now of people who apply for jobs, are rejected by some black box AI. And when it comes to employment law, that's not allowed. You need to be able to defend yourself against a discrimination claim to show that the decision that you made did not, age, gender, religion, national origin, race, etc. These things cannot be part of the process. You can't prove that it's not part of the process because the AI is a black box spitting out a recommend and don't recommend. It's not repeatable. You could do this multiple times and get different results. It's a disaster for employment. Okay, so there are sectors and AI and HR as a field is like, we need to adopt AI. You're gonna get sued. You're gonna lose lots of money. We need to be thoughtful about how we use this and all this situation. So thank you for hearing my rant. My wife is super happy that somebody else has heard it besides her. All right. Thank you very much. I'm happy to take the question.
So I totally agree, like the hype is at its peak, right? And it kind of reminds me of, I don't know if folks remember, during the pandemic, there was a frozen yogurt shop in Long Island. Changed the name to Crypto Frozen Yogurt.
Yeah.
So it'd show up in search, right?
Yeah, I mean, board
It was
apes
like-
came up all the time. Right, yeah, I mean.
So, but I cannot recall a single time where a new technology came about and the free market was measured in their response, right? Like, what is the blueprint for putting the toothpaste back in the tube? Like, has it ever been done successfully?
I mean, what I think is gonna happen
Yeah.
is like in 8 to 10 years, everyone will absorb these lessons and then it's gonna become a normal good technology.
So like the dot-com bubble is kind of.
Yeah, something like that. But until then, it's gonna do a lot of damage, especially to our young people. They already suffered through the social media killing their brains and COVID killing their brains, and now this stuff's killing their brains. I feel so bad for like 20-year-olds. We need to help them, and we're in a position to do that here in the academy, so let's do it. Right.
Can I just piggyback on your rant for a second?
Yes.
When you mentioned the HR issues and the hiring and just getting, so I know I have 2 recent college graduates, and they're looking for jobs,
Yeah.
and they're AIEO.
Yes.
They have to AIEO their resumes
Yeah.
and things like that to try to get the buzzword that's gonna get them into the filter,
Yes.
and then it's an arms race.
Yes,
So,
absolutely. So, yeah.
I'm on
And
the
so,
soapbox next.
and then, it's people getting AI to write their resumes, to optimize them for the AIs that will read their resumes, and like, what are we doing? I was reminded of a story, a friend of mine who's a consultant, it turned out their email and their client's email were just emailing themselves back and forth. Because that's what they were set up to do, and she's like, what am I doing? This is ridiculous. So, I think we're gonna, we have to learn these lessons the hard way, and then it's gonna become a normal technology adoption. Thank you. Yes.
Just one more follow-up on that, right? So how do you see us as faculty members setting up our students today for success in the current hellscape that exists? But then also setting them up for success when everything tones down in 10 years?
I think what,
Jose.
but Jose, what Jose said, I think is really the key, right? Which is, yeah, sure, let them like be able to put stuff on their resume or like be able to prompt because actually the growth field in 2 years is going to be the people to undo the coding that but in a bigger picture sense, what can a human do that a computer can't? And we need to do the critical thinking skills, the interpersonal skills, all those types of things. I think we need to double and triple down on those types of things.
Thanks. So there's an opportunity here to fold in the bullshit. How much of what we teach to our students is the bullshit they have to do in order to show up in the field?
That's true.
Of whatever field and present themselves as belonging. A lot of that is just BS. You show up and you talk the talk and you walk the walk and you wear the clothes. They're the norms and standards of a field that you are entering. AI can be folded in the same way with a gigantic asterisk that also helps to unpack, why do we wear suits? Where does that come from?
Yeah.
I think it can help us to bridge the social oppressions of old that are represented in the practices of modern corporate America that are now infecting the globe, and really get the AI as the latest symptom of social and intellectual domination by, as my husband likes to call it, undiddleable boys who have way too much money and who just will not allow diversity, who will not allow a plurality of voices. And I just wanted to add to the paper that you were presenting earlier, you know, with the pressure to publish or perish, there's also a tremendous decrease in publishing bad news. So if you are not presenting a positive paper that demonstrates something, it's not going to get published. That means that all of those failed experiments aren't getting into the AI. So we're doomed to repeat all of these failed experiments because AI didn't tell us to hold your horses. So no, I'm going to step off of my own statement.
Yeah, well, we can talk later. Great. But thank you and.
Thank you, Doug. And our final presentation of the session, Dr. Dougherty.
Yeah, okay, thanks. So you have the slides up there? Slides? Okay. All right, let's see, okay, now, I've got to get this on, oh, it's not on the screen, right?
I mean, you're the host, sorry.
I don't know why. Not sure why.
I'm glad it's not my presentation with standing between us and lunch. Okay.
No, I don't know. All the others were connected, so.
I just stopped the share. I didn't touch anything.
I think it's in a browser, that's what makes it confusing.
Yeah, so one of your browser windows has all
The browser window has everything, yeah.
Yeah, the browser.
You have to diminish that, yeah.
I know. No, it was fine earlier.
Okay, I guess I'll have to like kind of read it.
Yes, I apologize to the folks on Zoom and here in the room.
All right.
Let's try this.
Okay, what do you? Is there any, maybe one last ditch thing you could?
Well, it was connected earlier.
Okay, here's my
There we
sister.
go.
She has it on, well, no, but it's not, won't go on here.
Oh.
Can we put it so that people can see it?
Absolutely.
Sometimes there's a thing like function and F5 or something. Good to see. Good to see you here at this thing, you're helping us out. Do you want to let Lauren works on this quite a bit? She might.
What is the one that you, oh, here.
There it is.
Potentially, I mean.
There we
No,
go.
it's like against. Oh, no, I'm right.
Thank you
I was
very
just
much.
saying like.
Okay, great teamwork, everybody. Thank you.
Your wife did it all.
Oh, this is my sister-in-law, my wife's. No, I don't need to see all those, because okay, great. Okay, so my talk today is called AI for Good and for Evil, a teaching presentation. And I put my things over here, the SSCP and CISSP, that has to do with computer information systems practitioner and security. So, okay, with that, let's try to get to the next screen. Okay, so this is a unique presentation for me. And one thing I wanted to mention a little bit is that I used Grok to assist me with this. And the reason for that is I like to use tools. Now, I retired 8 years ago and I'm a professor emeritus. Okay, so I find as I've aged, okay, I use reading glasses now. And then also, as far as walking and everything, I got a problem with my feet and my back. I use orthopedic shoes and I also use orthotics. Now, I also know that as aging, I also forget stuff. Like sometimes I'll go downstairs and say, what was it? What did I go downstairs? And then also, as you age, your community gets smaller and your world gets smaller. So just like I use glasses, I use orthopedic shoes and I use orthotics and everything. I also use AI because that's another tool that's helping me as I age. So I asked Grok for some assistance with this. Okay, I know a lot of things about different AI agents and everything, but I know I have a bias too as a human and everything. And then my world is getting smaller as I age and stuff. So I used Grok as a tool, as just another tool. And I've had some, another thing is I've had good experience with Grok in the past. I've said, Grok, make me a security plan for my Windows 11 computer that's hooked up to a Linksys wireless router and everything like that. And it's come up with a nice security plan. And you know, as somebody that teaches computer security and everything, I'll see like, oh yeah, those 10 things. Oh, that 11th thing. Yeah, I either forgot that or I whatever. And then that's kind of another one of these tools. Okay, so special thanks. I would like to thank a combination of humans and AI agents. Dr. Paulette Lausch, Professor, School of Public and Global Affairs. We spoke about some of these slides and everything. I got some input and I got some input from Ms. Ellie Gui, a doctoral candidate at Drew, and my sister-in-law here. And then I'd also like to thank Grok for its AI and for sharing its opinion about other AI agents. Now, I guess as a human, and then somebody that's knows that like in New Jersey, we have the most lawyers per square mile, and then we're always worried about liability. Sometimes Grok will say things that I wouldn't assert. So I'm like, ooh, that's good. I can always say, oh, Grok said that, but not me. So I'm always kind of afraid of asserting things, you know. So I like it when I can point the finger at somebody. I remember in a previous job I had, one of my bosses says, Eamon, I'm going to teach you a lesson that's very important. It's worked well for me for my whole career. He says, always have somebody to blame. And if the person there isn't to blame the guy on vacation. Okay. So anyway, tools by themselves are not good or evil. It's the intent and usage of the user. Consider the screwdriver. Okay. Screwdrivers can be a burglar tool. Okay, evil. Screwdrivers can be used to fix something. Children's toy, reading glasses, whatever. A screwdriver was used to repeatedly stab someone. And sorry to say this happened in New Jersey, and there's a story about that. Okay, so it's the screwdriver itself. I mean, I can buy one at the dollar store. It's not good. It's not bad. It's the intent of the user. And it's the same thing with AI, really, you know. Now, Grok is an artificial intelligence chatbot released in 2023. Grok 4.1, which is really terrific, was out in November 2025, and it's an Elon Musk creation. So I thought I'd ask Grok for a plan how to secure my Acer laptop with my Linksys router with Windows 11 installed. Grok gave me a comprehensive plan that addressed wireless security, which I thought was great. Wasn't too long. Strong encryption, change default settings, disable risky features, update firmware, implement network segmentation, it says, delete apps that you don't use or things like that. Okay, good. And then technical security, it says, make sure you got up-to-date antivirus and security software, firewalls, VPN, that you're doing backups, and make sure you have backups of your backups and stuff. And I thought, okay, that's good. But newer versions of Grok, like 4.1, also said, hey, what about physical security? You know, where's your laptop at? Is it in a locked room? And is there CCTV or a lock on the door or an alarm? And it also considered policy considerations and stuff. So it's like, that's good. So I'm really in favor of these newer versions of things because they're more inclusive. So anyway, Manus was originally a Chinese AI agent, and I've always heard people say things like, well, watch what you upload there, because if you did a customer list and everything like this, well, now, you know, maybe it's in the People's Republic of China or whatever. So I always thought about that. So anyway, I said to Grok, what do you think about Manus? And here's the good part. Here's the fun part. Manus-style AI agents shine when you give them work that's repetitive, structured, or requires constant attention. The kind of stuff humans can do, but shouldn't have to babysit. And I put my URL visited so that I'm not plagiarizing. That's another thing. It suggested sorting lists, updating spreadsheets, sending out reminders, and many other things such as sending notices and newsletters. Okay? Things I really don't want to do, I can have Manus do it. And then Grok also said, agents like Manus also excel at copying data between systems, renaming or organizing files, updating spreadsheets, sending routine emails or messages, monitoring dashboards, and logging results. Okay, that can be a mind-numbing task, you know, monitoring different things for like security alerts. And then it said something I thought was really good. It says, it feels like, I have to do this again. An agent can probably do it better. So I thought that was good that it put that in. And there's even sort of a feature I haven't used on it, but there's like a little bit of a sarcastic version of Grok that I haven't tried yet, but a friend of mine recommended it. But I liked it that they put that little thing in there. And then I asked Grok about Gwen 3. Well, Gwen 3 models, especially the larger ones, are strong at writing and debugging code. Okay, something that people don't like to do. Explaining complex concepts. Okay, that's like, boil this down to a small thing. Generating boilerplate or scaffolding, and assisting with API design or refactoring. You know, application programming interface, like go here, get this data, come back. They're competitive with top-tier open source coding models, so they're great for local development environments or private repos. Now, I really like that Manus wasn't trashing the other AI agents, you know? Like, you know, sometimes even humans do that with trash talking other people, okay? And I thought at first, well, maybe Grok could do that, but it didn't. It said like, hey, these are the things that they're really good at and stuff like that. I like that. I thought it wasn't biased. Now, I asked it about Fraud GPT. Okay, now at school, I think we use Fred GPT, right? Right. So there's actually a thing called Fraud GPT. And I asked Grok about Fraud GPT. Fraud GPT is a label that's been used online to describe malicious AI-powered tools marketed on dark web forums. They're not legitimate AIs. They're typically rebranded, modified, or outright fake tools. And they're advertised to criminals. They're evil, They're associated with, comes with the intent of the people selling or using them, not from any inherent capability. So again, we're saying that the tool itself is not evil, but it's the intent of it. It's going to be used for fraud. And fraud GPT is dangerous because it's used with phishing and scam creation. Templates for fake emails, fake websites, impersonation attempts, malware or exploit generation, claims that they can help create malicious scripts or automate cyber attacks. Okay, we've heard about Claude being used for automated attack. Identity theft assistance, generating fake documents or social engineering scripts. Credit card fraud guidance, instructions for exploiting stolen financial data. And bypassing security checks, attempts to evade filters, CAPTCHAs, or verification systems. Okay, look at this. This is like some kind of criminal mastermind educating like wannabe criminals and stuff. This all sounds like really bad stuff, but this is even what Grok will tell you on this, okay? I'd be kind of afraid to say some of those things, but Grok wasn't, okay? And then dark web AIs. These are scams themselves. They're actually criminals selling applications or services to other criminals. Not real models, often just wrappers around existing tools or low quality scripts. Okay, we've heard of script kiddies that are people that don't even know how to hack. They just use these malicious scripts and then do an automated task. On dark web AI agents are dangerous to users. They often steal data from the people who buy them. And it's just like scareware. Remember those things that used to come up? Oh, your computer's been affected. You got to buy this thing right now. Well, you buy it, and then you got all kinds of new malware on your computer because the scareware downloaded it. Okay, so even these bad guy tools are dangerous to other bad guys. Or, you know, bad gals, because some of the, I've been told that some of the best hackers and stuff like that are the women in China. So it's not just men doing that, it's equal opportunity. So the evil is less about superpowered AI and more about criminal intent, misinformation, and exploitation. Now here's another one, Worm GPT. Okay, I thought that was interesting. I asked Grok about Worm GPT and what it can enable. Here's the type of misuse security researchers have highlighted. Highly convincing phishing and scam messages, like they're not good enough. Okay, well, Worm GPT can help you here. Can generate polished, personalized emails that mimic real companies or colleagues. That makes social engineering attacks easier and more scalable. And also malware-related code generation. So let's say if somebody is like a cyber criminal, well, they get like Fraud GPT and Worm GPT. Well, I've just gone to the next level. Okay. Because it lacks safety guardrails, Worm GPT can be used to produce code that could be repurposed for harmful software. Even if the code isn't perfect, it lowers the barrier for people with limited technical skills. Okay, so we've just lowered the barrier. Now everybody can get into cybercrime. Okay, dark way. Let's see. Did I just do that before? No. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I did that before. Okay, Fraud GPT. Wait a second. I just got ahead of myself. Okay, we did that. Scams themselves. Worm GPT. Okay, thoughts for the future. Now, as quickly as new processes are developed, bad actors develop ways to use systems for evil. And there is a need to be aware of the positives and the negatives. Now, I'll just tell you one other thing I didn't have time to put on this. I know the CEO of Paragon, Amber Schroeder, and she has this fenced-in AI agent called Xandra. And I took like an image of a phone with simulated organized crime data, and I just uploaded it up into her thing. Xandra is a fenced-in area, secure, and it came out with things like this looks like it's organized crime theft ring of like phones and stuff, and it says these type of crimes appear to be happening, and judging by the location of the text messages and phone calls, local law enforcement should be contacted, and these type of search warrants should be put out there, and these kind of crimes are happening. And I was like, wow. So there's some good stuff that's gonna help policemen and policewomen. Now, the thing is, it's not gonna replace them, but the thing is, new phones have 2 terabytes of data. Okay, 2 terabytes, that's incredible. There's no way one person can look through all that stuff. To find all the links between the people and to sort this out and what's actually going on, especially when people use 60 different applications to communicate, you gotta use AI. And I think things like Xandra AI and stuff like that will be good for the police world, especially when it's being fenced in. So there's good and evil out there. Okay, that's all I have to say.
Just so everyone knows, there will be lightning talks going on from undergrad and graduate students down in Wilson Auditorium if you wish to attend.